Hello and welcome to WAHEY Productive Psychology Revision videos. This is Site 3 and we are doing part B of our aggression videos, adaptive aggression.
We love adaptive. I love adaptive. Do you love adaptive?
Yes.
We adapt to love adaptive.
Yes.
Arguably.
Does that make sense?
Let's move on to the first little bit, which is actually adaptive response, which is an argument for aggression.
Intrasexual.
Intrasexual. Let's go, Sarah.
Beginning with aggression as an adaptive response, I think I just said that, with intrasexual selection or between the sexes.
Sex differences in parental investment means that males have potentially more offspring, therefore a maximum reproductive rate is much higher for males than females.
This means that males' reproduction is limited by access to females, whereas females' reproduction is limited by resources.
Yes, therefore females become unlimited resources over which males compete.
For males, status is very important. It's crucial for a male to establish dominance and resources to gain reproductive success.
Males have multiple partners called polygamy, meaning that some males gain more than their fair share, while others are shut out entirely, really. The poor little darlings. Darling. Carry on.
Therefore, an alpha male achieves the most of the matings, and therefore loss of status is catastrophic for reproduction.
And such a system leads to ferocious competition.
Therefore, polygamy causes certain risky strategies.
Males employ physical aggression more than females. They take more risks in order to gain an elevation of status, and they demonstrate less concern for physical welfare, as the winner takes all.
Winner takes all.
Copyright, go.
Violence, therefore, can be fierce at the bottom of the hierarchy for those facing reproductive oblivion, and risky and aggressive strategy may represent a last resort.
On the other hand, females compete for resources needed for offspring.
So, the establishment of dominance is more costly for females, as their presence is more critical for offspring's survival.
Also, females have less to gain from achieving status, as most can achieve matings.
Therefore, the evolutionary theory would predict that females use less aggressive, low-risk and indirect strategies to acquire resources.
And as a result, females rarely inflict serious damage to one another over resources.
This scientific term for females' damage, as we said in our last video, to each other is bitching.
Bit rude. Bit
Bitch,
rude.
please.
Bit rude. Now the AO2. Now, there's loads of supporting evidence for this from the animal kingdom. Fighting generally stops at the end of the mating season, like with male stags and bull elephants.
Yeah. This indicates that access to females is a greater motivating factor in aggression than the acquisition of resources such as food.
What on earth was the sound you made? What was that meant to be?
That was meant to be my bull elephant.
Right. Okay, you've clearly never seen a bull elephant. Now, further research into mammals supports the idea that the greater possibility for males mating with numerous females, the more ferociously the males will compete with each other.
In elephant seals, that was my impression, elephant seals. In elephant seals, 5% of the males have 85% of all offspring produced.
They do.
Yes.
And the male elephant seals fight aggressively for control of the beaches, often risking life-threatening injuries for the chance to be the dominant male.
Further support for the evolutionary basis of aggression is finding that it occurs in all cultures over a long history.
Prehistoric remains show signs of physical aggression between early humans.
Skulls and ribs have been discovered with evidence of wounds inflicted by man-made weapons designed to cut and stab.
Also, the murder rate is high in traditional hunter-gatherer societies.
Homicides account for roughly 1 in 10 deaths of adult males among the Huli. In 1 in 3 deaths among the Yanomamo.
Not the Yanomamo.
Even among the so-called peaceful, oh my goodness, Kong-san of
Botswana.
They have more than 4 times the rate of homicide in the typical year than the US.
Yanomamo. Also, tribal societies with the greatest polygamy have the greatest aggression. Yes, that's true. As is found in the animal species kingdom. Go. Just go.
The theory predicts that the... excuse me, my voice is going. The theory predicts that the perpetrators and victims of aggression are more likely to be men, because men are in competition primarily with other men, and there are loads of evidence supporting this.
Male-male combat among humans is a leading cause of injury and death among males.
In a sample of homicides committed in Chicago from 1965 to 1980, men committed 86%.
Of these, 80% of the victims were also men.
Although the exact percentages vary, cross-cultural homicide statistics reveal that in all cultures, men are overwhelmingly more often the killers, and their victims are mostly other men.
Yes. The theory also predicts extreme violence at the bottom of the hierarchy, as for those men, the only chance of reproduction may be risky, extreme violence.
Homicide data is support that, as poor, unmarried men are more likely to kill.
In a study of Detroit homicides, although only 11% of adult men in Detroit were unemployed, 43% of the victims and 41% of the perpetrators were unemployed.
73% of the male perpetrators and 69 of the male victims were unmarried, as contrasted with only 43% of the same age men in the Detroit area.
Therefore, lacking resources and being unable to attract males appear to be linked with male-male homicides. Would you like a drink? Here you could also mention that research is socially sensitive, reductionist and alpha biased and gender, etc. But we've said it so many times.
Yes.
Just
on to aggression as an adaptive response.
We're already on that. Let's do another one. Let's do jealousy. Shall we do that? Shall we do that? Yeah, let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah, now the second theory dealing with aggression, as we said, is jealousy / infidelity, if you like. Jealousy is defined as an emotional state aroused by the perceived threat to a relationship or position.
Evolutionary psychologists believe that cues and that trigger jealousy are different in men and women.
Cool, those evolutionary psychologists. For males, a sexual infidelity will result in parental uncertainty of children, and therefore sexual infidelity act as cues that triggered sexual jealousy.
Therefore, sexual jealousy that has evolved to help a man protect his genes and ensure that the investment he is making in offspring is to his benefit.
Reacting with aggression towards his rivals should deter them from approaching their partner, increasing parental certainty.
Reacting aggressively towards their partner will deter their partner from staying, increasing parental certainty.
For females, sexual infidelity does not jeopardise a woman's assurance and parenthood.
She is always certain for her biological investment. However, her mate becomes interested if her mate becomes interested in other women. This will result in a loss of his commitment to her children, reducing their survival, and it is a trigger for emotional jealousy.
They may use indirect aggression to slander their rivals, again scientifically titled bitching. Now, on to AO2 for this, which is all jealousy. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
One study asked students to describe their likely reactions to a jealousy-inducing situation shown in a film.
Men predicted that they would respond angrily, becoming drunk and threaten their rival.
Women anticipated their reaction to be crying, pretending not to care, and trying hard to increase their own attractiveness in order to regain the attention of the male.
This suggests that sexual jealousy triggers violence in men.
In another study of Baltimore spousal homicides, again, 25 out of 36 were attributed to jealousy, and the wives were victims in 24 of these cases.
Also, one characteristic of female victims stand out: their age.
Young wives and girlfriends are more likely to be killed than older ones.
Because of their age.
Since youth is a powerful cue to a woman's reproductive value, the evolutionary theory predicts that male sexual jealousy would be targeted towards young mates.
Because of their age. Also, the concept of male jealousy can be witnessed throughout history, with legal systems often supporting the male. For example, until 1974, it was legal in Texas for a man to kill his wife and her lover if she did so while they were engaged in the act of intercourse.
Now, that is not what you want, is it?
No. Aggression does not have to lead to murder. Studies of domestic violence also supports the evolutionary theory.
In a study of battered women in a refuge, two out of 3 reported that their husbands were extremely jealous.
Really want fish and chips. However, most evolutionary psychologists are reliant upon the testimonies gathered by police, and although sexual jealousy may be a prime motive, alcohol and drug abuse and low socioeconomic status all correlate highly with abuse.
Now, this theory is criticised for being deterministic, as it argues genes inherited from our ancestors predispose us to being aggressive.
This raises socially sensitive issues, as potentially it could be used to justify wife killing on the grounds of infidelity.
However, most evolutionary psychologists do not suggest such violence is excusable. So, just that we have evolved an instinct that predispose us to such behaviours, but this does not mean that we have to act on them.
And finally, this approach is reductionist, as it reduces aggression to evolutionary instincts and the passing on of genes, therefore focusing on nature, ignoring nurture.
Many argue purely evolutionary explanations tend to neglect social factors.
And in reality, instincts will be modified by culture. For example, in modern society, murder is just unacceptable, really.
This will influence the likelihood of males resorting to murder.
Additionally, although the theory can explain why there is widespread instinct for aggression and murder, it neglects situational factors such as de-individuation.
Now on to group displays.
We love group display. Good, nice, easy essay. Let's go going with, you can choose warfare or sports, but we're going to begin with warfare. Let's go.
On to evolutionary experience.
Yeah, you said that. Oh. War, as I'm sure you'll agree, is the most extreme form of group display.
War in this context refers to the formation
Definition.
Would you like to continue for me while I cough?
Refers to the formation of coalitions to attack others within the same species.
This extreme course of actions is highly likely to end up in injury or death.
This seems contradictory to survival of the species, and therefore, from an evolutionary perspective, it must have benefits that outweigh the costs.
Men are only willing to fight as part of a coalition, if they gain something.
Yes.
Yes.
Possible gains may include increased territory and therefore increased access to resources and ladies.
Aggressive group display is likely to cost individuals their lives, but is greater chance of survival by acting as part of a group compared with acting alone.
Groups are more powerful and offer a greater protection to the individuals within it.
Therefore, the evolutionary theory offers an explanation for warfare that allows one group status over the other.
Men who are more aggressive and stronger will win wars, surviving to pass on their genes.
This could then lead to the emergence of an increasingly aggressive species that would have evolved
due to war. That's interesting. So arguably, we're getting more and more cross. Now, the theory explains why some individuals choose not to fight, as group conflicts should be avoided if the costs outweigh the possible advantages.
There is no reason why women should form alliances to raid neighbouring villages to access men, because female reproductive success is not reliant on the availability of males.
Even if I'm there.
Oh.
To involve themselves in such risky behaviour would hinder rather than help women's survival.
Yes.
Now, on to AO2. Perhaps the most memorable evidence is the discovery of lethal raids in chimps.
A group of chimpanzees setting off to attack neighbouring males show a very particular pattern of behaviour.
Unlike their usual noisy manner, they walk silently through the jungle in single file.
If they catch a rival, they beat him, often to death.
Chimpanzees are often thought to kill males in other groups to gain access to food in their territory. Eliminating these males also prevents them from mating with their females.
Sometimes they even persuade females whose males have just been killed to join their group.
It's a bit harsh. Now, the finding of similar behaviour in chimps and humans therefore suggests a shared evolutionary origin. It's also been found in ants, I think, as well.
Ants?
Ants. Well, ants get pretty rowdy. Ants. Carry on.
However, some dispute this evidence, arguing that it is not natural behaviour, but as a result of human activities reducing the land available for the chimps, increasing the competition.
Yet this may in itself be relevant to the evolutionary approach, as human warfare may increase when resources are low.
Research into Native Americans supports this, as it was found that they have been more peaceful before Europeans arrived than after.
Anthropologists examined more than 5,000 Native American skeletons and found that those from after Columbus landed showed a rate of traumatic injuries more than 50% higher than those before. You all right? No. Okay, some researchers speculated that the increased violence was due to disputes over access to Western goods and weapons, and the white people expansion forcing once separate groups of natives together. If you're wondering why we've taken ages to do this video, Sarah, it's just because Sarah hasn't had a voice. It's only just come back.
I'm still sort of dying. Well, I have no idea what we're on.
Further evidence comes from the universal nature of warfare. Even today, hunter-gatherer tribes fight for food, women and status.
For example, the Yanomamo tribe, who live in the Amazon basin, the men call themselves the waiter, meaning fierce.
Not the waiter.
I don't know why I said the waiter.
Neither do I,
Waiter.
but there we are. Okay. 40% have undergone ritual purification, which occurs when they have killed or participated in killing.
A third of their young men die violently.
Now, one of the most frequent causes of conflict is the abduction of women. And researchers found a correlation between killing and reproduction. That's weird. Now, like most tribal societies, the Yanomamo are polygamous.
Men who kill the most have 2 times as many wives and 3 times as many children as non-killers.
This finding is widely interpreted as implying that aggression of men, like that of chimpanzees, may be a product of evolution.
Some psychologists suggest that even in modern day war, men fight to secure access to women.
In more recent wars, such as World War II, Germans invading Eastern Europe carried out systematic acts of rape. Though to be unbiased, which we like to be at WAHEY Productions, it is likely the Allies were raping people too.
More than 20,000 Muslim girls and women were raped during their
atrocities in Bosnia. This took place as part of organised Serbian programmes of cultural genocide, the aim being to make the women pregnant and raise the children as Serbs.
Aww. The universality of warfare suggests that nature rather than nurture is the biggest influence on war.
However, it is also important to understand that warrior status is much valued in tribal societies and so may be reinforced by culture.
Now on to sport.
We love sport. It's a little bit nicer.
Yes.
Yes. It's been claimed that in modern society, tribal warfare has been replaced by sporting events in which different teams represent their tribes.
Now, somewhat obviously, there are rarely any fatalities amongst either players or supporters.
And in this ritualised form of aggression, therefore, all benefits of success are available to competitors, but with a reduced risk of physical harm.
Ultimately, in modern society, the winning team will be seen as holding high status, making individual members of the team desirable mates.
In a game such as rugby union, a certain level of aggression is allowed within the rules.
Moves such as tackling or being part of the scrum require a great deal of strength and athleticism.
These allow for displays of behaviour attractive to females as they are related to hunting skills and the ability to provide.
The team shows off these skills. The team that showed these skills off to their best advantage, and like hunters before them, the men are most successful when working cooperatively.
As a team. In rugby union in New Zealand, the All Blacks begin their matches with the unique form of group display known as the haka.
Performance of the haka involves moves and chants.
That's something else.
No, it involves moves and chants designed to intimidate the opposing team.
It originates from the Maori people. Maori. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong to any Maori people. And it was originally performed by warriors before going into battle.
Group display behaviour such as the haka serves to indicate the importance placed on the winning team event.
Yes, AO2. Support for this actually does come from rugby union. 144 rugby union players were questioned about their use of aggression in the game.
The players are most likely to use unsanctioned aggression were those who scored highly on professionalism and placed more value on the winning than being fair.
These players had learnt how to execute illegal moves designed to take out opponents without them being detected.
This behaviour could be interpreted in evolutionary terms, as the theory supports the idea of cheating as adaptive.
Now, teams who learn to deploy illegal moves without getting caught will ultimately win and achieve status and rewards that victory brings.
However, the methodology used can be criticised as the use of self-report technique may be subjective and unreliable.
Victory in matches brings status not only to the players but to their fans.
This is supported by psychologists who call this
basking in reflected glory.
Right as divas are psychologists.
Yeah, they are really divas, psychologists. Basking in reflected glory. Carry on.
Boom.
They found that after a university football team had done well, the students showed a greater tendency to wear clothes that identified them as belonging to that particular university.
According to the researchers, they were displaying their connection with the winning team to enhance their image in the eye of the observers.
Yes, this is apparent in the supporters' tendency to use the pronoun we to describe successful outcomes.
If the team was unsuccessful, the supporters were more likely to distance themselves from the failure, saying they lost, and thus disassociating themselves from the group with lower status.
So to recap, that was basking in reflective glory. We've got to make them remember it. They're going to remember that now. They're going to sing that if it comes up. The theory is criticised for being deterministic as it argues that genes inherited from our ancestors predispose us to be aggressive. This raises socially sensitive issues as potentially this could be used to justify murder and warfare.
However, again to evolutionary psychologists, do not suggest that such violence is excusable. Just that we have evolved instincts that predispose us to such behaviours doesn't mean we have to act on them.
It's true. The evolutionary approach is reductionist as it reduces aggression to evolutionary instincts and the passing on of genes, therefore focusing on nurture, ignoring nature. Many argue that purely Evo explanations tend to neglect social factors.
In reality, instincts will be modified by culture, as modern society murder is unacceptable, and this is likely to influence the likelihood of males resorting to war.
Yes, that's it for part B, which is all adaptive shebang. Join us next time as we tackle social factors, which is very interesting. We will finally tell you what Abu Ghraib is all about.
Yes, it's not nice at all.
No, it isn't. So there we are. Thank you for listening. Apologise for Sarah's coughing. She's very poorly and my throat's getting dry and I fear she's giving it to me. So goodbye, bye.
Bye.
Au revoir.